Hey guys, it's Bree. Welcome to A Dose of Breality. TGIF guys, we have made it through another week. So if you guys are following the Dose of Breality Facebook page, you already know, and I mean, you guys have seen the title, so you already know anyway. But I brought this up last night and you guys said you wanted me to do a storytime video. So here we go guys. This is going to be the story of when I woke up completely paralyzed on one side of my body. Now we're going back to, I was about 22 years old, just about to turn 23 at the time. I was already diagnosed with MG, and that's where the issue starts to come in. So I was working in the same field that I'm in. Oh, cadets. Abandoning story time. I was working in the same field, but doing a different position. I was in grad school, so I didn't have the promotion that I have now. So I was getting up every morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready to go to work, and I had to be at work by 7, but I had to drive an hour to get there. So this is important, I promise. So I was getting up very early to get ready. So I got up, and I think it was a Wednesday morning, got up, my alarm went off, and I was living in an apartment at the time. I had a roommate, and the guy that I was seeing at the time was staying over. So my alarm went off at 5 a.m. I got out of bed, I stood up, I went to take a step to walk over to shut the alarm off, and boom, I fell down. I was like, well, that was weird. So pull myself up, stand up, boom, down. I'm like, okay, now in the meantime, my alarm is still going off, and my boyfriend at the time kind of looks at me and he goes, what are you doing? And I was like, I can't feel my left side of my body. At the time, this was horrifying because my MG clearly affects this side of my body, my right side, and this was this side of my body. I couldn't feel my face, I couldn't feel my hand, my arm, my legs, nothing. I'm not talking pins and needles, I'm talking nothing. Like, you could slap me, you could pinch me, you could probably have cut my arm off and I wouldn't have felt it. It was bad. So at this point, my roommate's awake, my then boyfriend was awake, I'm laying on the floor hysterically crying because I can't feel the whole left side of my body. So they rush me to the emergency room. And just for some backstory here, the guy that I was dating at the time was 6'5" and probably, I know he was well over 200 pounds. I think he was like 230 or so, which, I mean, given his height and all that, like, it wasn't anything, but this again plays into the story. So we get there and the nurse looks at me and she was like, were you in a car accident? No. Did he roll over on you? No. I'm sorry if there are small children watching this. I'm sorry. Did you have rough sex? No. I just woke up like this. So, tell them I have MG, all of that. So of course, then they think I'm in a crisis situation. So they rush me to the neurology floor and they admit me immediately. So I'm stuck there in the hospital. I call my work, call my supervisor, all that, call the family that I was working with, like, in the meantime, I am covered with bruises because the child that I worked for at that time was highly, highly aggressive. They send my then boyfriend out of the room and start interrogating me. Does he beat you? No. So I had to explain my job. Oh, it was a great time. So they finally come in and start doing tests. Determine it's not an MG crisis, even though I couldn't even, they're telling me to squeeze their hand. They're putting their hand here and they're going squeeze, and I'm going, I'm trying. Like, there was something going on. I had no control over this hand. I had no control over this arm. I couldn't lift my arm. I had nothing. Scariest moment of my life. I mean, imagine that. You just have zero feeling at all. So I had good grip strength in my left, and everything else in my left side was good. So then terrifyingly enough, they say, we think you had a stroke. Okay. So they send me for a CAT scan. No signs on my CAT scan or anything like that I would have had a stroke. But the doctor is very concerned when he comes back to tell me about my CAT scan results, and I'm like, please, I already know. There's a cyst right here. I already know. He was like, oh, okay. So he was fine about that afterwards, but he was like running in to tell me. I'm like, I'm fine. Trust me, I'm fine. That has nothing to do with this. And it didn't. So about 2 days later, I started to regain pins and needles feelings in my hands and in my feet. And they finally diagnosed me with what they called complicated migraine syndrome. I've always had migraines from the time I was like 11 or 12 years old. I would get horrible headaches, and I never knew how to explain them to my mom until I was a little bit older. She started saying maybe they're migraines, and took me to the doctor, and they had diagnosed me at the time with migraines. Well, I had been being treated for migraines for a long time. What I would tell my doctor was I sometimes get these auras around lights and things like that. They never really did too much for that. I mean, I still took my preventative medication, and I would have my regular medicine that I take when I get my migraines. But what they said is sometimes with a complicated migraine, you can have a migraine without having the headache. And sometimes it can cause paralysis. What? So, all of this, for days, mind you, I was paralyzed on one side of my body, and it was because I was having a migraine, but I had no headache. Because continuously throughout this whole thing, they were like, do you have a headache? I had no headache. You know, do you feel nauseous? I didn't feel nauseous. Are you having an aura? Well, yeah, I'm having an aura. Like, I had an aura at some point in there, but it wasn't immediately, and it was at some point during all of that. And I recall when I went to bed the night before, I had a slight headache, but it wasn't a migraine. It was just like kind of one of those tension headaches that you get. But somehow, some way, I ended up with this complicated migraine syndrome, which haunts me to this day, and is absolutely terrifying. To think that I could wake up any day and be paralyzed on one side of my body, my whole body. And that's the thing. They said usually it affects one side. It just happened that this was my left side instead of my right side. If it was my right side, they really would have been sold that it was an MG crisis. But yeah, guys, that is the story of the time that I was paralyzed on one side of my body. It was horrific, and I never want to deal with anything like that again. I hope I never have to deal with anything like that again, because I hate hospitals in and of themselves. That experience was just terrifying, and I hope none of you ever have to go through it too. So yeah, if you guys like this video, you guys know what to do. Give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more of them, you know, I have plenty of stories. There are many strange things that have occurred in my life, so I'm an open book as long as they don't share too much of my medical history or like disclose names and things that I could get in trouble through work. So yeah, if you guys want to hear more story times, definitely give this a thumbs up. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Bree51687. I would love to interact with you in those ways. Check out that Dose of Breality Facebook page. You know, leave me some comments there. What you want to see next. I will be back on Monday with a Makeup Monday video for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I will see you guys on Monday. Bye!